I'm guessing that if you're watching this now, you've purchased my DVDs on the King's Gambit, and if you haven't, well, go and buy them, please. But anyway, I've had some very interesting feedback from the very strong theoretician and endgame magician himself, Carsten Müller, and he had a look at my work on the King's Gambit, and he had some suggestions of his own, which we're now going to look at very quickly in a 10-15 minute video here. And I think this could be very useful to a number of you out there who've already purchased the DVD. It goes really alongside the DVD. There's a lot of transpositions, the stuff that Carsten suggested, to the material in the second DVD I did on the King's Gambit. And what we're going to have a quick look at now is another way you can play in the critical main line. So after e4, e5, f4 takes, knight to f3, as Fischer famously said, the move g5 is a refutation of knight to f3. Other moves don't scare us so much, and in my DVD I recommended d4. But I have to admit, this is a very risky way to play after g4, bishop takes f4, and it's a very risky gambit, so it might not be to everyone's taste. Instead, Carsten has recommended the move knight to c3, and I'm just going to show you some of the finer points of this move in this video now, and some of Carsten's ideas, which are really brilliant, I have to say. And, well, first of all, let's deal with the move g4. And g4 is probably black's best reply. We should answer this with knight to e5. And now, if black plays in a straightforward fashion, he will lose the game. And this is one of the really nice tricks with the move knight to c3. And the straightforward fashion is queen to h4 check. We play g3. And now f takes g3, and queen takes g4 here. Now, I admit, when I saw this position originally, I thought that g2 check was a very good move. In actual fact, it probably loses. The much better move here is queen takes queen, which we'll come on to in a second. But g2 check loses to queen takes queen. Black wins a rook by taking on h1, but after queen to h5, black is completely lost. What an amazing trick. And we're going to just have a quick look at a beautiful game here that Jesus played against Inacio, and, well, Jesus playing the King's Gambit. I'm sure if Jesus was around still, he'd be a King's Gambit player. What do you reckon? Do you reckon Jesus is a King's Gambit player? I reckon he was. Definitely. He seemed like a pretty nice guy. So, queen to h5. And, well, knight to h6 is the best defensive move here. But after d4, black is in serious trouble. For example, bishop takes knight is coming next. How does black defend? If he tries d6, we still take on h6. And after black captures the knight, otherwise f7 will drop. Queen takes e5 check is going to lead to a winning game. Bishop to d6 was played by Jesus' opponent, and now Jesus showed why he really is the Holy One, and he played a brilliant combination, and a lovely miniature this. Queen takes f7, king d8. He now played d4, allowing his bishop to enter the game. Knight to e7, bishop entered the game anyway. Black desperately scrabbled around to develop when knight bc6, and another knight jumps into the action, knight to d5. Beautiful placement of the white pieces. White now had to white was willing to sacrifice another piece now after queen takes e4 check, bishop to e2, and now queen to h1 check. Not sure what other moves are possible. King came to d2, queen takes a1. Can you see the stunning and beautiful checkmate here? One of the nicest checkmates I've ever seen in the game of chess. Queen to e8 check. Absolutely beautiful move, that queen to e8. If black takes with a rook, we have smothered mate with knight to f7, checkmate. If black takes with a king, as he did in the game, then knight to f6 check is mate next move. King goes to d8, knight to f7 is checkmate. The king goes to f8, bishop to h6 is checkmate. So that should definitely whet your appetites for this game, and that really was a beautiful line. Now let's just have a quick look at what can happen if in this line after g4, queen h4 check, g3, if black decides to swap queens off. So queen takes queen here. Well, after queen takes queen, knight takes queen, d5 is the only critical option. And now Carsten recommends an interesting option here, and I agree with Carsten. He goes for knight to e3, and this looks like a very good move. And after pawn to d4, he now goes for knight on e to d5, and this leads to a better position for white. For example, let's just go through a couple more moves. King to d8, defending c7. Knight now comes back to e2, and after g takes h2, we win this important pawn on d4. Bishop to d6, pawn comes to d3, knight to c6, developing naturally, and now bishop to g5 check, gains tempo, knight to c7, and king to d2. Eventually white will round up this pawn on h2, maybe with knight to f4 or bishop to f4, and his central majority will give him a very, very good game. So again, very promising stuff so far. Now, what was considered the problem with this opening, with knight to c3, this interesting new idea which I'm doing this short video on? Well, bishop to g7 is considered black's best reply here. And now, after bishop to g7, we should go d4. And the idea that Carsten gave here was that if black now plays g4, which is critical in a lot of variations, we can simply play bishop takes f4, and this can transpose to the stuff on my DVD. But after pawn takes f3, queen takes f3, we get this dynamic position where white has one pawn for the piece, but he has great spectacular potential. The f7 square is a target. Bishop c4 is coming in. White is castling queenside. Just really good compensation, and it's amazing to see that the computer even gives this line as roughly equal, even though computers love material. For example, let's just look at a couple of moves. Knight to c6 looks natural, trying to start a counter-attack here. And now bishop to c4. And if black decides to go knight takes d4, then we have the devastating bishop takes f7 check. Again, another beautiful variation. King takes h7, queen to h5 check, king to f8, and now white can castle. Two pieces down, but with a big attack. Knight to e5, knight to f6, bishop to e5, and this is absolutely killing. You can analyse this yourself if you want to, but one line is queen to e8, and now another piece into the throw of the magic here. Rook takes f6, and it's games like this which really get the chess imagination going and really encourage us to play in such a beautiful and romantic way. And now after bishop f6, queen h6 is a killing blow. King g8, and we take on f6, and well, this is completely winning. So another very nice line that Carsten pointed out here. And maybe one of the critical lines, that was obviously critical, they're all critical, after knight c3 is knight to c6. And in this position, it's incredibly important to play the move g3, leading to what John Shaw said as a quahade structure. And after knight c6, you have to go g3. And this again seems to promise white very good play. g4 is the natural move, otherwise white gets very good play on the king side. Knight to h4, and now f3 is considered black's best. What should white play against this? Well, a very good line is d4 here, and we're gaining very good play. Bishop to b4 is a possibility, but against this move we can go d5 with very good play. And after bishop to e7, we have to be willing to sacrifice another pawn, but we can do so by playing bishop to e3, leading to what I would have thought is an advantageous position for white. For example, bishop takes knight, pawn takes, queen takes, bishop f2, queen g5, and now this important move here to pressurise in the centre, d5. If the knight comes to e5, we can start our attack. Knight to b5, and if king d8, d6, with extremely good pressure for the piece. So yet another attractive variation. Now there are some transpositional things that we'll just be aware of to my DVD. After g5, knight c3, knight to c6, g3, as we just analysed, black can go d6, but now we have a direct transposition to one of the games in my DVD after D4. And I encourage you to look at my DVD for that game. And that was a game between Zaganivsky and Smirnov. So that is the game you should be looking at there. Okay, and I think that's really most of the lines that we need to concern ourselves with. And I just thought that quick and interesting little compilation of games put together by Carsten was very interesting and very good. And maybe whets your appetite for this knight c3 move. Yet another option you can play in the King's Gambit, showing just how rich and interesting this opening is and how exciting it can be. Fascinating stuff. There's always new discoveries in this opening, but if you're not convinced with the line I give in the DVD, I still think it's very useful to watch it because the transpositional things, obviously I think it's good to watch it. I can't say anything else. But then this knight to c3, which I didn't mention, Carsten Muller's preferred move, has not been refuted. So maybe the King's Gambit lives. Let's hope so.